What I thought I would do is we actually ran an MBTI conference in San Francisco about 2 months ago, and one of our keynote speakers was Josh Bersin. Some of you may be familiar with Josh Bersin. Is Bersin by Deloitte. He was bought out by Deloitte, but he specializes in HR trends. I was fascinated by some of the information that he provided, and I thought, well, we paid to have him be the keynote speaker, so I can take a little bit of license here and share some of that information with you. So I thought, building off of some of the things that Dan said, you'll see some similarities in some of the things that I'm going to be talking about, and this is just around data. So let me see if I got this right. So what he did was, this is based off of, it's called the Global Human Capital Trends for 2015. And this is based on 3,300 business and HR leaders from 106 countries. So it's a pretty good sampling. And what I thought was really wonderful about it is that when you look at the top 3 areas, as far as our business is concerned and what we all do, we're looking at now the number 1 is culture and engagement. So Dan was just talking about some of the different challenges that we have around engagement, around what are some of the steps we need to do to be engaging people. This particular one, 87% of people said culture and engagement, and of that in the rating, 50% rated it very important. So it was the highest, one of the highest. It was the highest, and in terms of importance, it was rated at 50%, rated it as very important. It was followed closely by leadership gaps. So more of what Dan was talking about is how we're doing as leaders and what are we doing to engage our culture. And then learning and development was number 3. And then you can see the rest of it on the list. But I thought, wow, that's fantastic information. And that's valuable information for all of us to know because this is all about the soft skills training. That's what these are all relating to. So I thought what was really interesting, too, is on culture and engagement, he showed the next slide here is about how they thought they were doing. So not great. This is on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being not at all well, 5 being great. And so I thought what was really important here is we need to be figuring out what are these companies doing that's getting them down, that they're hitting on this engagement. And what do the other companies need to learn? Because this is where we're all really looking at this. I guess that doesn't work. But anyway, you see where the tower goes, where the average is 3.1. So it's about average. So I think that just creates, it's important information because I think it creates opportunities for all of us. If whether you're an independent consultant and you're working you're working with organizations or you're inside the organization, this is important information to know and to understand that's going on as far as the trending is concerned. I thought some of the other issues now that he talks about around the culture, the value of the leadership. Are you all familiar with an organization called Glassdoor? Yeah, so everybody's familiar with that. Well, this was from Glassdoor, and I thought this was really interesting. It's about how employees are viewing and commenting on companies. And this is about where they rate culture and values, senior leadership, career opportunities, work-life balance, and then compensation and benefits. And it's culture and leadership that are roughly 3 times more important than salary and compensation. So think about that for a minute. That's quite a lot to take in. 3 times more important to the employees. And career development and learning are 2 times more important than the actual environment that they're in. So the opportunity to learn, develop, grow is really important. And all of that, of course, feeds into engagement. So next one was around leadership, the leadership gap. 86% see leadership shortfalls as a top 3 issue. The challenge is that we treat the leadership issues as a short-term problem. So we're going to have leadership development, we're going to do a leadership development program, and then our leaders are all going to be developed and ready to go, rather than really looking at it as a strategic initiative. that really needs to be addressed as an ongoing learning and development opportunity for our leaders so that we're actually, as leaders, we're actually able to do a better job at engaging all of our employees. And the need to focus the leadership development on all levels in the company. So this is talking about the little piece in red here is about the leadership capabilities in 2015 are no higher than they were in 2014, despite the fact it was the #1 issue in 2014. Despite the fact that there was a 14% increase in spending for leadership development. I thought this next one, when we're looking at the different generations, this next one is really interesting to me. Millennial leaders, as far as developing millennial leaders, these organizations rated themselves as 66% are weak in developing millennials. So again, it's a challenge, obviously, but I think it's important information to share because it's also creating these great opportunities for all of us in this room, basically. I thought this was really good, too, about global leaders. Because the world is becoming so much smaller, global leadership is so important, and yet 57% feel that they're weak in that area. So, what we need is to look at the leadership development models that have been in place. And I'm going to run through, because I only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to run through this whole thing. I'm going to put them all up. But what I thought was important about this is to actually look at what's the evolution of leadership from organizations. So we started back in the 1950s, and before it was the industrial corporations. And you look at things, what I thought was really compelling about this particular slide is when you look at who are the people, go down to the slide, the fourth box, it's Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford, and the corporation is king. And then you move on to the hierarchical leadership, and it all becomes about the profit and the growth of the organizations. And the executives are the kings. And these are the people that they're calling out, Jack Welch, Peter Drucker. Now, collaborative management. That's all about the customer service, the employees as the leaders. And it's getting into the people in the organization are the kings. And then the final one is networks of teams. And this is kind of where we're at. And what I thought was really fascinating about this slide, what I really liked about this, is that when you look at that third box down, it no longer is talking about individuals. So we're not talking about the people now, we're talking about the organizations. And that's what's being spotlighted now. It's more of the Netflix, the Googles, the Facebook, the Amazon. And it's the teams and the team leaders. And then I thought this was great. So you look at the last one here is, by 2020, it's all about the purpose, the meaning, and the empowerment. And that's kind of what we're moving to. And it's more about, the phrase here is separate the role from the soul. And that's all about engagement, isn't it? So it's really about multiple opportunities to do many different things and being very engaged inside your organization. So, number 3 was learning and development. So this is learning and development. 84% see L&D as a top 3 issue. That's up from number 8. It's now number 3 in 1 year. Skills shortage is holding back strategy execution. So we think about the whole talent drain. You hear about things like the talent drain. You hear about things like it's very hard to hire the right people, to find the right talent. And I think one of the things we have to understand is that's probably not going to change. And so I really think our organizations have to really start focusing on who are the people that they have in the organization and how can we better develop the people we have in the organization. How do we get that engagement? How do we engage these people so that they are taking on more skills, that we're providing them with the opportunities to have the skill sets that we need them to have in order to execute on the strategies that the organization has going forward. And I like this one too on the whole idea of reinventing the learning experience. So the capabilities gap tripled from 2014 to 2015. That's huge, it tripled in 1 year. Only 24% feel capable of using advanced media in learning, and 76% say it's weak. 30% say that they now feel they have the capabilities to use MOOCs. Is everybody familiar with MOOCs, massive open online courses? and yet only 12% feel that they have mastered learning and development. So again, this is really great information for us because this is all about what we do. And so I think this is really, it creates wonderful opportunities for the challenges that are going on. So this is the evolution of corporate learning and development. So it's moving from a content-centric to a continuous or experience-centric. So we have e-learning. We have, I'm going to put all these up because of time. We have e-learning and blended learning. That was 2001. That was more of the focus that people had going on. We moved to talent management, and that's where the introduction of the learning management systems, the talent management platforms came into play. We moved then to experiential learning. And so this became more about the content that you're having access to. The 70-20-10. 70% of the learning is from on the job. Only 10% is actually from formal learning. And then continuously embedded learning, which is more about the gaming, constant on-demand access to learning. And ultimately, by 2020, it's going to be learning everywhere at all times. Because we'll have access to all of this information and being able to then discern what is the information that's going to be most valuable for each of the organizations and where they're going and what their strategies are. So this next slide I will share with you. I debated as to whether I would put this in. And I think it's important because I think it shows something, again, about opportunities. So this is what we were looking at. What do most people want? So it's not training. It was the least desirable way people want to learn. And so I started looking at it and thought, well, geez, that's going to be hard to do. I'm going to be talking to learning and development professionals, and I'm going to tell them that company training is not how people learn. But I think the important piece in this is, as I was looking at this, and I had the chance to talk with Josh about this, is it's not so much that the company training is the least desirable way. It's that the company training in and of itself is the least desirable way. If it's not going to lead to something else, if it's not going to lead them to be able to have more opportunities to grow and learn from that experience, then it can be perceived as a waste of time. It's like, okay, I've checked that box. And I think it becomes critical for us to be able to be creating not just the event, but the whole experience. And it really becomes the experience that's going to do things like, so we go through, we learn about ourselves, we have insights about ourselves, and then what are we doing with that? How are we using that every day? How are we sharing that knowledge with our teams? How are we meeting and talking with others about it? How are we making it more of a process, more of an experience rather than an event? So I put it up there because I thought, okay, that's important for us all to know, and I think it's actually really, it really should not be discouraging, it should be encouraging because it opens up some new opportunities for us as learning development professionals. So, the importance of personality here. I was thinking as I'm going through all of these slides and looking at it. I've talked about the challenges that this data shows, but I've also talked to you about what opportunities I think it creates for us. And I think that's what when we look at models that are out there like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, they provide practitioners and end users with the language, the insights of personality, but it's also about what are you doing once you have these insights? How are you using these insights? How are you using the information that you have more, you understand more about yourself, you understand more about others, and how is that being used? And I think today I'm really excited about the agenda that we have in place because I think that's what we're going to be hearing about. We're going to be hearing about some of the innovative solutions that how people are using the MBTI instrument to develop the individuals, the teams, the organizations, and really how are they going about creating these experiences. So, without further ado, I'm exactly out of time. Thank you.